Imagine you haven't eaten a single bite of food in 2 whole days. You know exactly where the deer herd is resting because you tracked them yesterday afternoon. You mapped out the entire route in your mind, step by step, and now all you have to do is trek out there and secure a meal for your family. And then it starts raining. Not a gentle, cozy drizzle, but a relentless, heavy, wind-driven downpour that turns the earth into soup. It pours all day. It pours all night. By the next morning, the sky is still pitch black, and freezing water is still hammering down from above. Suddenly, the hunt is off. You can't see any animal tracks because the mud washed them away hours ago. You can't sprint through the open brush because wet bare feet on slick, jagged rocks mean a twisted ankle. And 50,000 years ago, a twisted ankle wasn't just painful, it was a death sentence. To make matters worse, the river right next to your campsite is rising fast, and the small fire keeping you warm and keeping apex predators at bay is starting to sputter out. You aren't bored. You are trapped. For almost all of human history, rain wasn't a cozy mood or a minor inconvenience. It was a full-blown existential crisis. But here's the thing. What our ancient ancestors did during those terrifying rainy days might actually be more important than anything they ever accomplished on a clear, sunny morning. Today, when it rains outside, you close your window, brew a hot cup of coffee, grab a plush blanket, and fire up Netflix. You curl up on the couch, sink into the cushions, and use the sound of the storm as pleasant background noise to help you fall asleep. But for a human living 50,000 years ago, that exact same pitter-patter on the roof of a cave wasn't relaxing. It could kill you in 3 distinct ways before the storm even cleared. First, there's hypothermia. A wet human body loses heat up to 25 times faster than a dry one. Without waterproof gear or thermal outerwear, a sustained rainstorm in temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit could drop your core body temperature into lethal territory within a few short hours. And turns out, most of the regions our ancestors inhabited got that cold at night, even in high-elevation African savannas during the wet season. Second, you had to deal with flash flooding. Humans naturally set up camps near rivers or under cliff overhangs. Heavy rains turned dry caves into drowning traps in minutes. Archaeologists have uncovered thick layers of river sediment deep inside ancient cave dwellings, proving that raging waters flushed through while people were actively living there. In many cases, those caves were permanently abandoned right after. And third, perhaps the most terrifying hazard of all, was predators. Rain drove hungry wild animals into shelter too, and very often their idea of shelter was the exact same dry cave you were hiding in. At cave sites across South Africa, human fossils and massive prehistoric cat bones are buried in the exact same soil layers. Some of those human skulls even feature deep puncture marks that perfectly match the lethal bite of a leopard. Rain compressed the entire world, squeezing humans, prey, and lethal carnivores into the same tight, dark spaces at the exact same time. In the middle of all that chaos, one single job mattered more than everything else: keeping the fire alive. And here's why that was so utterly terrifying. Before roughly 40,000 years ago, scientists aren't entirely sure if humans could start a fire completely from scratch on demand. Sure, we have clear evidence of controlled fire usage going back hundreds of thousands of years, at places like Kesem Cave in Israel, or Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. But controlling a burning ember you found after a lightning strike is totally different from creating fire out of thin air. For most of human history, if your fire went out during a rainstorm, you couldn't just light a match. It was gone. You had to carry smoldering coals from place to place, wrapped in damp green leaves, or packed inside tinder fungus, a special woody mushroom that could hold a slow-burning spark for hours, like a prehistoric battery. When archaeologists discovered Otzi the Iceman, the 5,000-year-old natural mummy preserved in the European Alps, he was carrying a specialized fire kit in his leather pouch containing tinder fungus, flint, and iron pyrite. Losing your fire meant death, so when the sky opened up, keeping that flame dry was job number 1. You had to move it deep into the cavern, shield it with animal hides, and feed it with surgical precision. You searched for dead lower pine branches protected by the forest canopy overhead, or split open soaking wet logs to extract the bone-dry heartwood inside. You used birch bark as kindling because it contains a flammable compound called betulin that burns even when drenched in water. One person's entire existence during a 3-day storm was sitting silently next to those coals, nursing the flame. Because that fire was warmth, light, protection, and survival. So, the fire is burning and you're mostly dry, but you're still trapped inside. What do you actually do with all those idle hours? You start inventing. The archaeological record proves that ancient caves were basically high-volume manufacturing hubs. Excavations reveal millions of microchips of stone scattered in concentrated piles near ancient hearths, the exact spot where someone sat by firelight for 12 hours straight, meticulously knapping flint arrowheads and scrapers. But it wasn't just weapons. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, researchers found a 100,000-year-old paint laboratory, complete with abalone shell mixing bowls, ground ochre pigment, and bone spatulas. Someone sat inside that cave while torrential rain poured outside and systematically manufactured red paint. Then you have bone needles, which suddenly pop up in the fossil record around 61,000 years ago. These are delicate, hyper-precise tools with microscopic drilled eyes. You don't craft a bone needle while sprinting away from a saber-toothed cat. You make it when you're forced to sit still for 2 days with nothing but time on your hands. Rainy days gave early humans the gift of focused, uninterrupted time. And here's where the technological evolution gets wild. At a Neanderthal site in France, scientists discovered a tiny fragment of twisted 3-ply plant fiber string, dating back 52,000 years, the oldest direct evidence of string in human history. At Holy Fels Cave in Germany, they found a 35,000-year-old tool carved from mammoth ivory with intricate spiral grooves designed specifically for twisting plant fibers into heavy rope. Think about that for a second. Someone sat stuck in a cave during a storm and engineered a dedicated rope-making machine. Rope changed human civilization forever. It allowed us to tie stone axes to wooden handles, weave fish nets, build complex snares, and lash together sturdy shelters. A massive chunk of modern technology can be traced back to someone sitting around waiting for the rain to stop. At Sibudu Cave, archaeologists even found 77,000-year-old plant bedding made from layered river sedges topped with aromatic Cape laurel leaves, a natural insect repellent. Our ancestors weren't just hunkering down. They were conducting pest control and making their shelters feel like home. But the story takes an even more incredible turn when we look beyond practical tools. Rainy Downtime birthed human culture and art. Deep inside Chauvet Cave in France are 36,000-year-old masterworks depicting running lions, charging rhinos, and muscular horses rendered with jaw-dropping perspective and shading. In Sulawesi, Indonesia, cave art stretches back at least 45,000 years, making it the oldest figurative art on Earth. These breathtaking murals aren't located at the cave entrance where daylight reaches. They are buried hundreds of meters deep inside pitch-black subterranean chambers. Someone crawled through claustrophobic stone tunnels carrying animal fat lamps just to paint on cold rock walls. You don't do that when the weather is warm and the hunting is easy. You do that when you've been trapped inside for 3 straight days. You've already sharpened all your spears, and your mind is bursting with creative energy that needs an outlet. Rain forced humans into tight spaces for extended periods, and that forced social interaction. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups noticed that daytime conversations revolve around practical chores, while nighttime fireside chats consist over 80% of myths, songs, and deep storytelling. The flickering firelight softened faces, lowered social stress, and transformed dark caves into the world's very first social network. Around those fires, elders passed critical survival data to the young: where to find hidden springs, how to track game, which berries were poisonous. Beyond facts, they forged mythology. They created elaborate stories to explain why the sky cried water and where the sun went at night. In Australia, Aboriginal oral histories accurately describe sea levels rising along the coastline from 7,000 years ago, a memory passed down uninterrupted for hundreds of generations, entirely through verbal storytelling during downtime. When the storm finally cleared, humans walked out into soft, muddy ground packed with clear animal tracks, ready to hunt with better tools, warmer clothes, and stronger community bonds. Rain didn't hold humanity back. It gave us the time we needed to build the modern world.